Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. I got started a little early today. Got my video knocked out early. Got 4 bets posted over to Tails. Feels good, man, which just means an 0 for 4 day. But no, I mean, let's hope that's not the case. We will get there. Hold on a second, man. My Twitter feed blew up when this happened. Oh, man, it was awesome. But anyway, happy to have you guys with us. It's the Showdown Strategy Show. Hopefully you had a good week. I bounced back from a bad week 8. Had a really nice day yesterday. Thank God. 2 rough weeks in a row would have sucked. But didn't bink anything, but you'll take – Greg, you know how it is. Like when you can get a solid ROI on any given day in the NFL streets, you don't need to bink for it to be a win because it's hard to bink these large field contests, man.
Shout out Brock Bowers. That was the I was slightly profitable, nothing crazy. Same as you. Didn't bink anything. I did have a couple of live lineups on Owner's Box that came towards the top, but not enough to like win big GPP or anything. But I only ROI boosted one player in the Sims, and it was Brock Bowers yesterday, and so he was massively helpful.
Absolutely, my highest exposed tight end for sure. Eric was doing the live before lock with Spags, and he didn't know why I kept I think he thought I was trying to derail his show or something. I wasn't even asking him to talk about it on the video. I was telling chat to follow up from the deeper dive because the Raiders game was a 4:00 game and we were running short on time and we weren't going to have the injury report until later, although it came out right after the show. My whole thing was like, if Devin Lloyd is out, I think it's a massive, massive game-changing difference for a guy like Brock Bowers who's finally healthy. So he gets ruled out right after, and I say that in chat that he's out. And Eric's like, oh, I don't know why Loughy's saying this. Like, look, I'm telling the chat who was watching it previously that Brock Bowers Devin Lloyd not expected to play makes a difference for Bowers. But it's funny you say that. It was the only, actually, that's not true. That is not true. I did boost Joe Flacco to get a little bit more Joe Flacco. And that's not like that's not a humble brag. I'm saying I boosted him because that game had insane shootout. Dude, he threw for like 470 yards. His career high passing yards at 41 years old, and they still lost. I mean, that defense is an abomination, truly an abomination to the game of football. There's no reason they should have lost either of the last 2 weeks when your offense puts up a combined like 80 points.
And I mean, the other thing, there were so many points scored in that game. I also wonder, why do defenses ever play a prevent defense? Because there was also a part of this where the Bears had a fairly comfortable lead, and they just let the Bengals score more or less towards the tail end of the game. I was thinking about the ideal game script for a stack, and it's really you have an offense that does okay but not great in the first half, and their defense is dog shit, and then they just play against a prevent defense for like the entirety of the second half.
Yep. It's very dumb. Very dumb. I'm with you. I also don't understand why quarterbacks don't just take contact at this point. Like, I think I mentioned it to you earlier in the week. Maybe it was Spags. Did you see the CJ Stroud one? Another one where he goes to slide. If you're going to slide, you can't slide late and expect the defender to pull up. I'm so sick and tired of people like, oh, that's a cheap shot. What are you supposed to do? Let him keep running? You can't slide with literally a split second for the defender to try and make a move. And not only are you sliding, but you are sliding to where if he's coming for your midsection, when you slide, now he's beelining for your head. I don't understand it. It's now happened multiple times over the past couple weeks. It happened to Jackson Dart, but he's a pretty tough dude, and he got up yesterday. CJ Stroud was out. There was another quarterback last week that it happened to. I don't understand it.
The other thing, too, is the hit on C.J. Stroud, I thought it was legal. I didn't even think there was anything wrong with that hit. And
did they flag the guy? Did they flag the defender for it?
I don't think so.
I don't think they did either.
I think they might have thrown one initially, and then the refs talked about, because I was just watching, on Red Zone, so I don't know exactly what the outcome there was, but how I remember it happening was the refs talked amongst themselves and picked up the flag and determined that it was a clean hit, which I thought was the right call. And CJ Stroud also, I'm pretty sure, played baseball as well as football when he was younger. So I was kind of surprised that it was such a shitty slide by him. But I do agree with you also. Like, you don't want quarterbacks to be trying to take contact like Cam Scatterbo does or something like that. But sliding is not it either because of what you said. I don't know what percentage of the quarterback concussions happen on slides, but the very bad ones almost all happen on slides.
Oh, yeah. And I know people are going to be like, yeah, but what about Tua? Or I understand injuries happen in more than just one way. And I also understand that not everybody is as big as Justin Herbert or as Josh Allen, but still, you have to figure something out. Anyway, glad you guys are here. Clayton, that Jameson Williams prop had me sweat from Tails. Hopefully you're on Tails. Had me sweating, made my day in the end. Are you talking about the ladder? Because I was sweating that too, man. He had one for -2 midway through the third. We didn't get the full ladder. We didn't climb to the top, but we hit the 60 plus as well, and that was nice. I know Morgan. Where is this? Where's Morgan? Brock Bowers. Where was the ladder? Yeah, I did post a bet on Tails for Brock Bowers. We hit that easy. If you wanted to, I should just ladder everything at this point, man. But nah, look, we got there. It was a good day. And Greg, I don't want to bury the lead. Common Penny saying, I saw that happen and thought of Loughy instantly. Talking about Scott Matlock. My Twitter feed and DMs blew up when he scored. And there was a tweet from like that BR betting account that said, there's not a single person in this universe that bets Scott Matlock. And I'm like, you motherfuckers. Like, I mean, 10 days ago, I did bet Scott Matlock, and so did everybody here. And he had an opportunity, but didn't get, you just knew it was coming. And the lure, the Scott Matlock lure is fully locked in right now. If I win a tournament this year and it has nothing to do with Scott Matlock and one of my players scores 50 fantasy points at 5%, I'm just buying a Scott Matlock.
Did you say, I'm assuming the answer is no, because you would have tweeted out a screenshot of it. You did say last week that you were going to bet Matlock to score a touchdown every day for the rest of the year because you said he was going to do it once. It happened the next week and you didn't do it.
Because look, you know this. I know it seems like we just hop on here and do shows and like then we do nothing the rest of the day. We're working all day. Like there's a lot more that, and I'm not saying you guys are suggesting that, but there's a lot more that goes into this stuff, like the prep and then so much else on the other side of everything. And, you know, just strategy, this, that. Like Greg and I doing shows is probably like 30% of our job in total or something like that. The point I'm getting at is I just forgot. Someone needs to remind me each week, but now we may just have to pick somebody else. So yeah, I don't know. It's
when
crazy.
He scored a touchdown, how long had it been since you thought of Scott Matlock? Wait, had you even thought about him existing?
No, that's what I'm saying, dude. After that game, I was like, all right, let me go. I have a life to live. I wish I had somebody like Ben who always tells me after the deeper dive and said they don't kill the stream because Live Before Live is coming up. If I just had somebody to whisper to me, $10 on Scott Matlock this week, $10 on Scott, $10 probably would have won. I don't know if you boosted that and FanDuel still gives me $10 on a boost. It was 5 to win 550 when I bet it the other game. Dude, you're seriously looking at probably 10 to win 1,000 if you boosted that. It was 100% boost, but still would have been cool. Yeah, Alex Baker chopped the showdown yesterday. That was only a 2-way chop too.
Yeah,
anyway.
Which going into, so I did the slate last night with EMAC. We did Live Before Lock together, and it was the most dupes I've ever seen. On actually, I'll throw this up right now to sort by dupes. It's always a question that we end up getting while we're doing the show.
One?
But
on this,
yeah. So just sorting by dupes because I want to use this as an example.
Greg, real quick before you do, some people still did bet Matlock, which makes me happy. So there were a few people out there that had it. If it wasn't me, at least somebody did it. And BR betting is wrong then. There were people in this universe, in the Stokastic universe, who are betting Scott Matlock to score a touchdown. Anyway, go ahead.
So on Alex winning showdown with only one split last night, this was something that EMAC and I had noted last night while we were doing Live Before Lock. It was the most dupes that I have ever seen for an individual slate, which makes sense because we had JSN projected for like 35% captain ownership and then Jaden Daniels for like 22% captain ownership. So there were multiple lineups that were duped around 250 times. And then we had, I don't know, maybe 30 lineups in here that were duped 150 plus times. So the way that slate was going to go, it was either going to be like a 600 lineup train for first place, or somebody was going to do something different and win unique. And that's what ended up happening. Alex played a unique lineup, ended up coming out ahead. And one of the ways that you could get unique last night was kind of limiting exposure to Jaden Daniels. I know his overall fantasy ended up being okay, but obviously the horrific elbow, arm, whatever the hell injury. I didn't see what.
Oh, that was brutal. That was brutal looking, man. That was worse than Scatterbill.
But yeah, Jaden Daniels, I assume, is going to be done for the season now. And when you get players who are that popular on Showdown, it is really hard to submit a lineup without them. But some of the lineups that you see at the top of the sims that are really unique. Last night was one of those days where it ended up working out to play those crazy unique lineups.
Yep. Wow. Nice, Kevin. Who is Alex Baker? Well, Stokastic.com used to be Awesemo.com. His handle is Awesemo, AWESEMO. And he was a co-founder of the website. All of the tools essentially were his. And it was him, Tom Kennedy, and a few other guys. But yeah, so that was Alex, co-founder, Awesemo.com, formerly Awesemo.com, now Stokastic.com. But many of the tools that Alex developed, and I think it's fair to say he was a trailblazer in this industry with a lot of what he was doing. You know, the top stacks, the boom bust tools, a lot of those things, which are simulation tools in their own right. We still have them on the site to this day. So Alex, the true OG of this site, and the reason Greg and I are here right now. Also, for a very long time, the number one ranked DFS player, hands down, no questions asked. Alex had a reign and a run that was, unmatched, man, just absolutely unmatched. So one of the all-time, maybe the all-time GOAT on the DFS streets, but certainly one of the top 5, no question.
Yeah, Nice Kevin was trolling you, by the way. He knows who Alex is, so that's why he also had thrown in here the table tennis expert. Yeah, he's a man of.
Some people probably don't. To be fair, there's probably a lot of people. So at least I didn't waste all of my breath there. I'm gonna say, Nice Kevin's been around here forever, hasn't he?
Yeah. And Alex, man of many talents, table tennis, dance. A lot of people don't know about his Dance Revolution prowess, but Alex has a lot of sneaky talents people probably don't know about.
Yeah. But yes, yeah. Alex, for those of you who are new to the channel, that is why. All right, you ready to get into this one? Fun slate. Yesterday, dude, I went to bed yesterday. I went to sleep at 10:30. I really didn't care much about that game. Didn't really have much in Showdown anyway, because I had a bunch of stuff going on up until it started. So I just went to sleep. And I don't think I missed much, Greg, but I will be staying up for this one tonight. I'm actually excited about this game. 53.5 point total. Dallas's defense is an absolute sieve, right? They can't stop anyone. Their secondary is super banged up. Then you have Will Johnson in the secondary, their top corner for Arizona. He popped up on the injury report with a groin injury, which sidelined him earlier this season. I don't know if he's going to play. And then you have Jacoby Brissett, who has actually looked good in the 2 games he started. Now, they lost both of them. I don't really think it was his fault. Yeah, they went into Indianapolis. They could have won that game. Trey McBride, I think it was a PI call. It is what it is, fine. But had they called that, maybe if it were in Arizona, they would have. They have 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. And they win that game, almost certainly, right? And then the following week, didn't Green Bay win that game on a game-winning field goal? Like that came down to the wire. So yeah, I mean, or maybe not a field goal, maybe a touchdown, but you know what I'm saying. It was a competitive game. So I think this is an interesting game. And there are, Dallas has scored 40+ points in all 3 home games this year, but only the Bengals allow more points per game than the Dallas Cowboys. So you might see a lot of scoring tonight.
Very possible. It's been the case in just about every Cowboys game. The only game their defense really looked decent in was the game against the Jets. And the Jets still ended up putting up a bunch of fantasy points in garbage time against the Cowboys, where you saw, I think it was with like a minute left, Justin Fields threw a touchdown to Garrett Wilson, and then all the Jets chalk ended up getting there for the slate. But yeah, this Cowboys defense, it's terrible. The thing that's really funny about the Cowboys, as good as their offense is, I don't know if you felt this way watching them, but I go like, boy, if they had Micah Parsons, this is a real contender this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but I would definitely say that they are much better on defense for sure. Their secondary is so bad that if you go up against a team with good pass protection, I think they're still going to get carved up. But I don't disagree at all that Micah Parsons' absence is, well, that's the other thing. I mean, kind of to your point, if you can't generate a quality pass rush, then it just makes your secondary look that much worse.
Yeah, and I mean, the other part of it too is just their offense is really solid, and the NFC as a whole is not very good. Like, one of the best teams is like the Packers have losses that don't make any sense. The Packers have lost to the Browns. They lost to the Panthers yesterday. They have the tie against the Cowboys. So I mean, I think the Packers are better than the Cowboys, but I think Micah Parsons is on the Cowboys instead of the Packers. I would think the Cowboys are better than the Packers this season.
Dude, that Packers loss yesterday was they should be embarrassed. I went to a game. I went to an Eagles game at Lambeau Field, right? And I think I've told you this before. I was almost concerned with how nice everybody was, right? like one of them was going to buy me a beer and spike it with arsenic because they were too nice. It's been, and for you Packers fans out there, let me know, because maybe it was just me watching that game and being like, oh, I haven't noticed this before. Greg, I've watched a lot of football. Those boos raining down at Lambeau yesterday, those were some of the loudest boos that I've heard in quite some time, man, from Lambeau. Like, usually they're a pretty respectful. They're not like Lincoln Financial with the Eagles or the Giants or the Browns. They were pissed off. And I agree, Morgan, the Kraft injury is big, but still, they mustered 13 points in that game, and the offense was just terrible. But I don't know if you noticed the same as I did. That fan, man, the fan base, they were restless.
It's just an odd team. There's obviously very high expectations coming into the season, and it seems no matter who their opponent is, they play to the exact level of their opponent. If it's a good team, they're going to play up to the opponent. If it's a bad team, they will stink and play down to that opponent as well. It's been a very bizarre team. Yep.
And yeah, Jake, we tailgated there at Lambeau. Is fantastic. Really, really fun. But anyway, just getting back to this, I guess what I'm saying is that Jacoby Brissett still super viable, and his price point, I mean, to me, that price point is way too cheap on Brissett in this matchup. Like, I don't really understand it. I'll go a step further and say I don't fully understand the Trey McBride price point either. To think Trey McBride should probably be 10K in this specific spot. I don't know. I think Arizona's defense is middle of the road. They're not bad, right? They're fine. But also you have a lot of offensive weapons for Dallas. I'd still expect them to move the football. But 9K on McBride, to me, the McBride and the McBride pairing with Jacoby Brissett at that price point, those stand out to me more than anything.
Yeah, especially when you look at some of the players who are priced around them. So, like George Pickens having a really good season, and I know he's played well since Lamb came back. But it's worth noting that earlier on in the season, he was not a guy who you would think of as being priced at $8,800 on a showdown with what his production was earlier on in the season when CeeDee Lamb was healthy. It doesn't mean that I think George Pickens doesn't have upside or anything like that. I just think that Trey McBride is a much better fantasy asset than George Pickens, and he's only $200 more expensive. Then you've also got Javonte Williams at 10K. I know Javonte Williams having also a really solid season, but I don't know about you. I don't totally buy into Javonte Williams' start to the year. I'd rather roster Trey McBride than him at 10,000 also. So with showdowns, it's not just what a guy's price is. It's also who's priced around them. And I think he's a way superior option to the guys who are priced above and below him.
I buy into Javonte, but I still like Trey McBride as much as anybody. 30% target share in the two games that Brissett has played. And by the way, that's not a 30% target share on 40 total attempts. That's 24 targets on 80 attempts. So he's getting a lot of opportunities there for sure, man. I mean, a lot. And then, you look at Javonte. The reason I do like Javonte a decent amount today is if you saw Brian Schottenheimer's press conference last week after their loss, that bad loss in Denver, he was asked about Jaden Blue. And he essentially goes, well, you can't fumble the football and you have to know how to pick up the blitz. And then he went on to say that there's an open competition for the RB2 spot between him and Malik Davis. Malik Davis was reverted to the practice squad. My assumption is they elevate him again. But if that's the case, and you have Javonte, who already is handling 75% of the running back rushing opportunities on the year, and now you've got Schottenheimer totally unsatisfied with his RB2 rookie in Jaden Blue and Malik Davis, a practice squad guy, being behind him, you just have to think that Javonte's workload should still be very solid in a game like this.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's going to be really solid. To me, it's just more so he's 10K, and I'm comparing him to what his price point is, when you could also go to CeeDee Lamb for $800 more, Dak Prescott for $400 more, Trey McBride for $1,000 less, relative to the guys priced around.
Sure.
Javonte is my least favorite of those pay-ups.
Sure. I'm just saying he's still definitely viable, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I assume I'm going to end up being underweight to the field to him.
That's fair. Headhunter Racing, thanks for the super chat. Tied 6 in the Minimax, 3rd in the quarter arcade last night showdown. Been here from the Alex days. Can't thank all of you enough. JR from Minneapolis. Awesome, man. Congratulations. Love to see it. And it appears your Vikings got a massive win yesterday. I assume you're a Vikings fan, given the jersey and the fact that you say you're from Minneapolis. What a win. What a win. I mean, that was the most surprising game of the week for me. No doubt about it.
JJ McCarthy looked pretty good. I'll give you guys a lock of the night that Loughy is only going to understand. Stand-up meeting today. This comes up between Eric and Joey. Lock of the day. I'll lay minus 10,000 on that.
Me too. And I will just turn my speakers off. I'll let you report back. I don't want to listen to that. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Loveland had himself a game, huh? Yeah. Einstein. I don't think Goff is dog water, but just a tough game. It was a divisional spot. It happens. Can we sort by exposure to the flex, Greg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so flex exposures, no massive shocker here, but the quarterbacks show up a lot.
They absolutely, and I obviously you're saying that the same way I would. They should in a game like this. It's a 53.5 point total. Arizona's running backs are, Bam Knight and DeMercado. I guess is he going by Zonovan now? Whatever.
Is the name change official?
Is Bam Knight not Zonovan Knight? Are they not the same guy?
No, it is the same guy, but I wasn't sure. I thought you were asking what does he prefer to be called by, which I have no clue.
That's exactly what I was wondering. But I mean, I suppose it's unimportant. Anyway. Yeah, I like both of those. Dak Prescott and Brissett, they both make a ton of sense there. Brissett's price point is wild. And then McBride, we both said 9K. 9K. We have to have a decent amount of McBride at captain. I'd be very surprised if we didn't. CeeDee Lamb, yes. Javonte Williams, yes. Even Marvin Harrison, whose target share has been really, really low in these Jacoby Brissett games, I still think he makes a ton of sense because Dallas's secondary is so bad, Greg. Mm-hmm. You could have even a couple deep shots from Brissett to connect, and Harrison ends up having a very big game. Also, two game sample isn't really indicative of what you're going to get this week either. So I like Marvin Harrison at 8,400. And to me, I understand I'm just rattling off chalky guys at the top price points, but these offenses are kind of concentrated, and these guys all look really good, and most of them are underpriced. So, yeah, we'll find ways to get different, but I assume you feel the same way.
So what I like about Marvin Harrison is the ownership. I do agree he's probably a little bit overpriced, but as a result, he's only 25% owned. I feel better about Marvin Harrison than the running backs from the Cardinals, and Knight is more popular than him. Who else? Let's see. Yeah, Michael Carter is even pulling 20% ownership at $4,400. So I think that, contrarian is always relative on a one-game slate, but I consider Marvin Harrison to be a good contrarian option to pay up for, to be a little bit different with.
Yeah, not a lot of ownership there at all. Go to captain, and then we can start looking at some value options here. I just want to see kind of the lay of the land. Okay, there you go. Trey McBride. When I saw we were only getting, 35, 40% at flex, you're thinking you have to be getting a lot of Trey McBride at captain.
Yeah, only 10% owned, showing up in 18% of lineups. And overall, pretty spread out here at the captain. We've got 5 guys in at least 10% of lineups, nobody over 20% of lineups. Juxtapose that with the Sunday Night Football game where we had something like 60% combined exposure to Jaden Daniels and JSN last night. And I don't even think there was a single other player in the Sims that was showing up in more than like 7% of lineups. So a way different outlook for tonight's slate. Very, very more, way more balanced exposures.
Big time, right? I mean, Brissett 15, Prescott 14, Lamb 12, Harrison. Look, I love that 2x the field on Marvin Harrison Jr. because Harrison still has that upside. Like he could still rip off 2 big touchdowns against this team. It's a 53.5 point total. It's in play for sure. George Pickens, understandably, is not Dak or CeeDee Lamb, but he's still viable. 7%, 5% Javonte. So we are under the field quite a bit there, Greg. To your point, he gets pretty expensive. But I mean, who else do you really look to captain once you get down here? Michael Wilson, we have 2.5% or almost 3%. Bam Knight. I'm actually fine getting trace amounts of him at captain because Jonathan Gannon suggested that whether it's him or DeMarcado or Carter, whoever has the hot hand is going to get the opportunities. But that also means that if Knight doesn't have the hot hand, we don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, it's the very poor man's version of the Seahawks backfield from last night, where you had Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. They're both relatively expensive, more expensive than the running backs for today. And it was really hard to figure out who was the guy to go to. For some of those spots, I kind of prefer them in the captain spot than the flex, just because there's a ceiling, but there's also a very low floor. And I prefer the contrarian way that you could play them in the captain spot, like Bam Knight, 4% owned in the captain. Let's see, Carter, 1% owned. I think those are kind of interesting contrarian captain options, but on the whole, I'm not going to be massively interested in the Cardinals running backs.
Yeah, I agree. It's whack-a-mole. Morgan, find someone who supports you through the bad times like Loughy still believes and supports Marvin Harrison Jr. The funny thing is Marvin Harrison Jr. has never really been my guy at all. I have a lot of guys that I'll back till the death from a football perspective, of course. But he's never been one of them. I will say, though, look at his matchups. He has not had easy matchups at all. Seattle ended up 6 for 66 and a touchdown. Tennessee, yeah, sure, if you wanted to say Tennessee, but, it's not like their secondary is not awful. He had 4 for 98. Indianapolis is a good one, a good secondary. I think they might have been down Ward, but still a good defense. Green Bay's secondary is very good. San Francisco was largely healthy when they faced them. Carolina, he was going up against one of the, going up against J.C. Horn, who's one of the best corners in the league. Like, he actually hasn't had very easy matchups. So this has nothing to do with me being like, oh man, Marvin Harrison's got to be the guy eventually. No, I mean, I couldn't really care less about Marvin Harrison Jr. But when you look at the matchups, they are not the easiest string of matchups at all. And now he has literally the second easiest matchup in the league behind Cincinnati. So, like, if you want to go look at his box score and just be like, well, he's not been good, Greg, and he hasn't had a ton of work, you could go ahead and do that. But you could also angle it differently and say, well, yeah, but everybody can be good against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is part of it's because the expectations were so high on him coming into the season and going into his rookie year. So he certainly is nowhere close to living up to that. But then people go out and they're like, well, Marvin Harrison's terrible. That's not quite true either. He's on pace for about 1,000 yards this season. He hasn't caught touchdowns. The last game, I'm pretty sure this was the last game the Cardinals were on a showdown slate for. He was the winning captain in showdown contests for that game. So it's not like he's completely devoid of any sort of upside. So I do think it's a little bit overstated how bad he is. It's just because he's been, subpar relative to his expectations.
Right. And that game also started with a terrible drop that went into the defender's hands and resulted in an interception. All I'm saying is I don't really care if Marvin Harrison ends up being good or not. I just, in the context of this slate, I think he looks good.
Yeah. The other thing too is it's not like he's getting any kind of love from the field. Look at the pay up options. I've got them sorted here. Of all of the players who are priced above 8K, Marvin Harrison's 25% owned. That's by a decent amount. Pickens is only 30% owned, but Brissett 54%, McBride 38% in the flex, Javonte Williams 35%, Prescott 54%, CeeDee Lamb 37%. He's pretty easily the lowest owned of these pay up options.
Yep. Yeah. Rowan, you're going to have to retype that in English. It's being if you pick up me got to care. I don't know what you're saying, man. I'm happy to respond to it. I assume you're talking about my take on Marvin Harrison Jr., but I can't quite put the pieces together there. Okay. Are there cheap options that we can look at? There's a couple comments in chat right now talking about Michael Wilson. Yeah, look, just another example here, right, of a guy who's underpriced and has been terrible and is not really getting targeted. And I only say underpriced in relation to the matchup. He's $3,200. It's the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys, and for those of you guys who think I'm exaggerating here, right, the Cowboys are allowing 8.2 yards per attempt passing this year. That's second worst in all of football. All right. They have allowed passing yards. They've allowed the sixth most passing yards, and they haven't even played this week yet. All right. 20 passing touchdowns, second most in the league behind only the Bengals. They have 4 interceptions, which is bottom 5 in the league. The list goes on and on. Only the Dolphins have allowed a higher quarterback rating. The Cowboys have allowed 28 receptions of 20-plus yards. And you ready for this? 8 receptions of 40-plus yards. So, I mean, and they only have 15 sacks on the season, which is one of the worst numbers in the league. They're so bad that if you asked me any of these receivers or pass catchers for Arizona, am I willing to play them? My answer is almost certainly going to be, yeah, sure, I'm willing to play them.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the Cowboys defense. Whatever we think about the Bengals defense right now, which is bad, this is what we thought of the Cowboys defense just a couple of weeks ago. Just a little bit under the radar because the Bengals have been so terrible that's the bad defense everybody's focusing on. The Cowboys have been absolute dog shit as well, though.
Yeah, for sure. So, if you look at opportunities or snaps, Michael Wilson's still playing. He's probably still going to play 80+% of snaps in this game. And then you'll get some Zay Jones. I don't know. You tell me, Greg, like of the cheap guys, the cheap options for Arizona, are we willing to get to some of them? And the answer for me is you have to get to some of these guys.
Yeah, the one thing that does help, though, is the players are not exorbitantly priced for today. Like, we don't have anybody who's 11K. We only got 2 guys above 10K. McBride's only 9K. Brissett, I think, is a great flex option, only $600. You get Contrarian Marvin Harrison, $8,400. So you don't have to go too crazy cheap. So if you look at our exposures, let's see, do we even have... Yeah, we don't have more than 5% of anybody who's under $1,000. We really don't have that much exposure in general to the guys who are sub $1,000. We've got so like a couple of these guys, the $200 range are showing up in individual lineups. I do have one guy who I have some interest in. who do you want to talk about the more reasonable punt options or the super cheap guys?
We'll start at more reasonable.
Okay.
And then we can work our way down to the more cheap guys. And before we do, just a heads up, if you guys are, at all ever interested in getting access to these tools, we've had just an amazing NFL season so far this year. Hopefully you guys hopefully you're using the tools, and many of you were able to use the 30% off promo that we had yesterday, the flash sale during the deeper dive for any NFL package, monthly or weekly. If you have not yet done so, and you just wanted to get access to the Sims for the month, all you got to do is use the link in the description. And if you sign up with any of our sports books, any of our partners, right, or DFS providers as well, like pick'em sites, or a sweepstakes book like Onyx, which is available in 40 plus states, you spend 10, get 100 in bonus picks. Each one of these equals a free month of the Sims. Every time I talk about this, there's always people in chat that are like, yeah, I got my free month. I got 3 free months. I won this off of this many free months. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's the lowest lift way to do it and the most cost-effective way you're going to get in the door. Just choose one of them, whichever one it may be, okay? Click claim offer. It'll take you to the book. You sign up and deposit. Usually it's a $5 or $10 minimum deposit. Place a bet or a lineup if it's the pick'em sites. The moment that settles, or whenever after it settles, email us, not the books, at support@stokastic.com and just tell us what you want. Include your screenshot of your welcome email and your first settled bet or lineup. That's it. And let us know what you want. If you signed up on Caesars, Onyx, and BetMGM, you're talking, I think, a $25 total deposit across all 3 of them. You're getting 3 months of the tools. That would carry you all the way through the new year, right? So if you wanted 2 months of NFL, you're getting the Thanksgiving slate. You're getting Friday, Black Friday. You're getting Christmas. You're getting those Saturday slates. You're getting New Year's. You're getting everything. You're taking yourself probably all the way through the end of the NFL regular season. And then you could use that other month to run an NBA sub concurrently. I mean, is there anything better than that? You get the Sims, you get the single lineup sim, the top stacks, boom bust, ownership, projections, late swap tools, post contest sim, all the full suite of tools just by following these steps. Link is in the description for that. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to do so. Check it out. Straight no-brainer, man. And if you ever have questions, hit me up, hit Greg up. Greg has awesome tutorials that he's done right here on YouTube. All right, let's talk about some of these, and I'll follow your lead wherever you want to go.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start by saying that there aren't that many cheap guys that show up a ton in the Sims. And for the reasons I said before, I don't think it's super necessary to be heavily invested in these guys. Like Michael Carter shows up in 18% of lineups. We've got Michael Wilson in 17%. We've got a little bit of exposure to the defenses, but in general, no real priorities on the cheap end. So I'm a little bit more focused on the pass game just because I think there's so much opportunity for the passing games of both of these teams. And then when you start to think a little bit more about the passing games, all right, well, the Cowboys passing targets are pretty concentrated to Jake Ferguson, George Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb. For the Cardinals, it could be a little bit more spread out, especially with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And that's where I think guys like Michael Wilson come into play at a price point just over $3K. And then also Zay Jones, I saw some people bringing up in the chat. He is very contrarian today. If he was pulling any kind of ownership, he would not be of much interest to me. But against this Cowboys pass defense at 7% ownership, that's somebody who makes sense to me to be contrarian on the cheap end to get overweight too.
Okay. How much is he?
He is 4K and 7% owned. And for reference, 2 catches for 67 yards last week. The game before that against the Colts, he was targeted 8 times. He caught 5 of them for 79 yards. So he's an actual role in the offense right now. He's fairly cheap, and people are just not playing him.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it at all. Been productive in the semi-productive in the 2 weeks that we've seen. I also think that Zay Jones and Michael Wilson are going to see their ownership closer to each other by the time this slate starts. I really do. I think a lot of people are going to see exactly this. I like both of them. Michael Wilson has there's 10 targets from Brissett inside the 10, over the last 2 games. 3 of them went to McBride. Or I'm sorry, there's 6 inside of the 10. 6. 3 of them went to McBride. 1 of them went to Michael Carter, and the other 2 went to Michael Wilson. So they do still like, kind of a big-bodied receiver in the red zone there. He's cheaper. I understand he's getting more ownership, so your point stands on Zay Jones ownership as well. But I'm not saying Zay Jones is going to be more popular than Michael Wilson, but I don't think it's going to be 23-7. I have a tough time seeing that when I look at targets, and Zay Jones has been targeted more than Wilson over the last 2 weeks. He's been more productive than Wilson. I think that's going to I think they're going to meet somewhere in the middle there, personally.
Yeah, so very possible. For right now, I'm just kind of taking our data at face value with what it says. So definitely could adjust that opinion later on in the day. But right now, I just look at the ownership on Zay Jones, who has been playing a good amount of snaps relative to Showdown. He played 79% of the snaps 2 weeks ago. And in just about every other week this year, he's been 50+% of snaps, 54% last week, 79% the week before. That is very low ownership for a guy who's that involved in an offense and in a great matchup as well.
I always hate going to these Dallas guys because you have your Kavonte Turpins, who they can use in unique ways, right? Ryan Flournoy, Luke Schoonmaker, these type of guys, Brevin Spanford. They have so many players that can kind of just get a couple of opportunities, and they'll use them in weird ways in the end zone or in the red zone. I don't think, the one thing I would say about this is you mentioned that there's a lot of guys that aren't really overpriced, and I'd agree with that. I would also make the argument that when you have a total this high, you could have, a Luke Schoonmaker or like a Brevin Spanford who ends up having 2 for 10 and a touchdown, and they're still not in the optimal because there's so many points.
Yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I am going to be a little bit less invested in the kickers for this game. I know it's like blasphemy to not be heavily invested in Brandon Aubrey in a showdown slate, but
that's ridiculous.
But I think this game's going to be really high scoring, and there's going to be a lot of touchdowns. And even if Aubrey goes out and makes his normal 2-3 long field goals, like I don't know that 8-9 fantasy points from somebody at $5,400 is going to be quite enough for this game.
Look, I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, man, that's crazy. 20 in the two of the 3 home games, he has 22 and 17 DraftKings points. That's ridiculous. But the other thing is, in 5 of his last 6 games, he has 6, 9, 7, 8, and 8. So he has 2 huge games that skewed everything else. The guy's automatic. He's the best kicker in the league, no doubt about it. But I'm with you. I don't think you need to be forcing in Brandon Aubrey just because he's awesome.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, with Aubrey is he is so much more popular than we normally see kickers on these showdown slates. He's nearly 30% owned. And he might even come in higher owned than his projected ownership, which is already on the high end for a kicker, just because there's this, he's the best kicker in football, in my opinion. But there's also this idea that he's elevated to some sort of ridiculous level on primetime games. And I think we could see a narrative that gets him higher on than what he's even projected.
Who's your favorite dirt cheap value play, if we even need to go there? Because I'm not sure we need to go there.
So I have one that I like. It's Malik Davis at $200. Jaden Blue has not been good. And there's a scenario here where Malik Davis leapfrogs him on the depth chart, or even if he doesn't start the game ahead of Jaden Blue, he might finish the game ahead of him. Now, Javonte Williams is still going to be the guy who gets the majority of the work, but at $200, we've seen it. Sometimes guys score 2 fantasy points at $200. They end up in a winning lineup. So Of all the guys who are cheap, he's the one I can make a case for having an actual role today.
I agree. We just need to make sure they elevate him from the practice squad first. Because he reverted back to
Yeah, I mean, that's true as well. But right now we have him projected in. And if he's out, then don't play him. But if he is active, I think there's a chance he plays ahead of Blue.
Yeah, I think they will. I'm just saying that because they can only activate him one more time before they have to permanently sign him to the active roster.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening there. And it's something that when you do live before lock with Spags later tonight, there'll be more information on it. In general, though, we've got a total ownership of 7% of lineups in total have somebody sub $1,000 in it. It's really not necessary for a lot of you guys who are watching this that play, 1, 2, 3 lineups. Honestly, if I was playing 20 lineups, I'd have 0 players under $1,000 in those lineups.
Yeah, probably. You have guys like Elijah Higgins, he's fine. We're getting 10%. Okay. DeMercado, getting some of him. I just, you mentioned it. I don't really know what to do with the backfield here because you have Michael. It feels like any one of these guys would be capable of just going out there and having the better game. But it also is entirely possible that none of these guys end up being good at all. And Bam Knight's price point, I mean, he is getting the bulk of the work. So that's encouraging. If that's going to be the case, I do still think he's the best option of these guys, even at that price point. He's starting. If he starts off well, he's going to get to work. DeMercado had 1 touch or 1 carry last game. Nuts. Really is. But overall, I don't disagree that you don't really have to get too much down here. If you're playing, 150 lineups, then sure, you're going to end up getting to some of these guys. It's just a nature of all of this. And that's a Common Pennies super chat. For those of you listening in podcast form, I'll read this for you. Something Ben Rassa would never do. Can you guide me in the right direction on what rules I should have in place when building 150 lineups on Showdown, please? The first thing is, and Greg, I'll pass this off to you as well, but you have to figure out what you're trying to do. If you're okay with having like an unbalanced core and really just going really heavy to one side, and if it works, you've got a ton of lineups in the money competing for first place, and if it doesn't work, you're cashing nothing, then you probably don't want to run uniques. But if you're looking to have lineups where one or a couple of them can break free and you're spreading things out, then you want to set uniques. Our CEO Tom Kennedy is very good at Showdown. He just took down 115K the other week. What he does is he will run, I think he said he ran 3 uniques. And then once it got to the negative SIMD ROI, he started running 2 uniques for the final 50 lineups or something like that. But uniques are a really important feature when it comes to NFL Showdown slates because they can go in a million different directions.
Yeah, so I do have a question for Common Pennies, and this is not me trying to be difficult or anything. I do want to know exactly what you mean by rules. Do you mean the percentage to first settings and the settings in the contest generator? Do you mean actual filters? Because there isn't one specific feature called rules within the tool. So I'm not exactly sure what he means by rules. But so if you could clarify that in chat, I would be interested to know exactly what you mean by rules. Okay, filters. So for filters for Showdown, I don't really make very many filters. I don't know about you, Loughy.
For Showdown, I very, very, very rarely. Whereas I do a decent amount on main sites.
Yeah, I would. You don't have to use filters. So here's what a lot of people think when they look at their lineups. They'll say, "Oh, I don't want this lineup because these players don't correlate perfectly." It's, hey, why would I want a running back? Why would I want 2 running backs from the same team? What I think a lot of people miss on with Showdown is the main value, or a large part of the value, comes from playing unique lineups. It doesn't come from playing the players where it's like, oh, I need to get a quarterback with his wide receiver. I need to get, a running back with the defense or something like that. That is not where the edge is in Showdown. It matters more for main slates where you're trying to actually correlate the players. But in a 1-game slate, kind of everything correlates. And oftentimes, players who even have a little bit of slight negative correlation, it's okay because the field doesn't want to play those lineups. So you'll see something here like the lineup that we have projected for the second highest sim ROI here, it has DeMarcado and Bam Knight in it. A lot of people might look at that and just be like, "Well, I don't want to have that lineup because it's running backs from the same team." But the flip side is it sims really well because other people are not expected to play that lineup.
Exactly. Right. And yeah, someone mentioned they're surprised that the highest simmed lineup had a Duke. That is unusual. I agree. Nick, I'm not seeing in the sims where to set uniques. Greg has it pulled up here. So when you're favoriting lineups, what you want to do is set your uniques there. So what that's going to do is make sure that you are spreading out your exposure, right? And now if Greg were to do this, if he were to do you have 2 now or no?
Yeah. So it's on 2 now. I'll show you though. Let's say if I go really crazy here and set it to 4, then you'll see
you probably have 150
and refavored.
You probably have 300 right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So once I set it to 4 uniques, you'll see a bunch of these lineups get skipped. That's because what happens is every subsequent lineup selected has to have at least 4 different players than a previous lineup selected. So then when we go back here, if I change it to 2 uniques and then favorite top 150 lineups, you'll see that there's going to be some lineups that get skipped over, but not as many as when it was on the 4 uniques from before. So it's also going to be a little bit different slate to slate. People like there to be the one size fits all answer. I like to pay attention to things like the min sim ROI, and then I'll also go and I'll look at the favorites tab, and I'll scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'll see like, all right, we're getting to a bunch of lineups here with a 153% sim ROI on 2 uniques. So then I'll see, all right, what does this slate look like on 3 uniques? All right, so if I go to 3 uniques and favorite the top 150 lineups now, and then I go back to the favorites, we'll see like what is the group of the... So now I've got a bunch of lineups here that are not looking all that great, but I'm okay with these lineups that are up here. So then I might just go back and do kind of like what Tom had posted about doing on Twitter a couple weeks ago, where then maybe I'll go in and I'll be like, hey, I'll try to select 100 lineups or maybe 120 lineups with 2 uniques, and then I'll select the rest on 3 uniques. Because when I only went 3 uniques, I got some pretty fringe lineups here at the bottom that I didn't really want to have. But it's not that many of the lineups. I'm totally cool with the ones in the 50% ROI range, but maybe like 30 lineups here at the bottom I don't want to have.
Yep, exactly. And if you want, you can go to lineups, Greg. If you click lineups, say you're really crunched for time and you're setting uniques, you can see sim ROI range at the bottom and see the lowest simmed ROI to the highest simmed ROI within your...
Yeah, that doesn't really help for what I like to do, though, because sometimes there could just be an outlier lineup where it could be like, there might be one lineup that got through that has like a negative 15% sim ROI, but then your second worst lineup might have like a 30% sim ROI. So I like to look at the total group of the bottom like 20 or so lineups. I'm
saying if you're crunched and you just need to get these lineups in real quick and make sure they're all positive, there's multiple ways to look at it. But anyway, we got live before lock coming up tonight. Should be a fun one. And yes, Common Pennies, you have dude, use the entry manager. See it in the top right of the screen. So just upload your lineups from DraftKings, put them in the entry manager, and then you can add them into the contests you want and then shoot them straight over directly to DraftKings. You do not need any copy paste with CSV files anymore. We have streamed. It's super, super easy. It makes my life incredibly simple doing something like this. The entry manager, in my opinion, is the best overall feature of the entirety of the Sims, for sure. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out. Live before lock tonight, NBA live before lock tonight. Josh did the strategy show, so make sure to go check that out if you haven't done so yet. Anything we haven't covered here, we will cover later on in the day. And I'll be posting bets on tails. I already did. I posted 4 bets to tails already for Monday Night Football. I know Greg will have them up throughout the day as well. And we will see you back here very soon. Remember, Tails app, download it. Maybe a 5-star rating if you're feeling nice. And we'll see you back here tonight. Greg, anything before we go?
No, that's about it. Just like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like Loughy said, check out Tails and leave us a review if you've been liking the experience.
Yeah, man. See you back here for the next one, guys. Bye-bye.